things are happening today on our homestead. Stay tuned and find out what. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, The Purpose Driven Homestead. Today we have a lot of equipment kind of lined up behind us, at least for our little farm. You've seen us before. We've actually done a couple of shorts where we talk a little bit about how we're working to regenerate the farmstead here and trying to get the farm into a better place. It was a crop farm historically, tobacco farming, and then regular crop farming over the years. But we're trying to get that soil back into a fertile state naturally. The only way that you can do that is through manure in our case. So we're going to spread a whole lot of horse manure that we get from a local farm onto our pastures. And we've been doing that little by little. Now you've been using a smaller manure spreader for that in the past. Now how's that work?
That's right. We have our little John Deere tractor. It's actually a lawnmower that we kind of hitch that up on the back, and
our son uses it for chores, but
yes,
it works great.
It works great. It does the job, and we've been able to sling out manure and start building our soil. But today,
we're headed to the big boys.
We're headed to the big boys.
Yeah, so the manure spread that we got is from, you can get it from, a lot of places. You probably get it from Rural King. I don't think Tractor Supply has them, but Agri Supply. There's a lot of places that sell these smaller, more mini manure spreaders, and they do fantastic. The one we've got actually works really, really well. It's got a few kind of things that you have to keep in mind, but it's really about any manure spreader. In our case, we get our, like I said, we get our manure from a horse farm, and they don't always get all of the twine out of the hay before it becomes, mixed in with the manure. So it kind of gets wrapped around some of the propellers and the beaters at the back, and so that makes it so that we have to clean that out a little bit. But overall, that does really, really well for what we're doing. Now, you're doing small scale, I don't know, maybe a half-acre paddocks or something like that. It's really nice because it can turn in a lot of really tight corners, and so you can get a lot of the spaces, like when we're mowing paddocks. It's nice because using a smaller mower versus the big tractor and that kind of stuff, it works out really well.
Smaller spaces for sure.
Yeah, so we've got this big one. This is a Lancaster spreader behind us. We bought this not quite a year ago, but we just haven't had a chance to. We will try to get our manure to age out quite a bit. We've had this manure sitting for almost a year now, and so it's really had a chance to age. It's cooked down, so it's not hot anymore. So now we can actually spread it out on our fields. The big change here is that obviously we let it sit for a while. Hot manure is really bad for the fields.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely want to make sure that you're composting it for at least 6 months. We did a year, like you said, but that 6 month mark is you can go ahead and start putting it on the fields. Otherwise, it'll just burn the grass. So yeah,
it's got a lot of nitrogen in it, so that's great for your plants. But in too much, that much all at once, and kind of it takes a while to cook out, and that heat really pulls it. It allows it to break down more, and that helps the nutrients also be more available to the pasture that we're going to be putting on. So what you don't want to do is put out fresh manure right away, even a month, even a week. Anything you can do for it's going to help, because what you'll notice is around the base of the manure pile, it'll actually kill all the grass around that at the very base where it's kind of soaking in. And so that's what we're trying to avoid out on a larger scale, is by letting it compost like that. We'll actually mix in wood chips. Now, where do we get our wood chips from currently?
So we had the property logged, what is it, a year and a half ago now?
Almost, yeah.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
So we actually had the same guys that did our logging. They chipped up a whole bunch of pines for us, and we have it in a back pile.
It's oaks and pines. I think it's like a whole mixture of stuff, yeah.
So we, little bit by little bit, we've used it in our garden, around the beds, and in the aisles for us to walk on and suppress those weeds. But now we're mixing it in with the manure so that it can compost
it lightens it up. It allows more air to get into the manure, dries it out a little bit, and allows it so that when you're spreading it, like with one of these manure spreaders, this really is more like compost with a mixture of thicker stuff. It adds carbon to it. That carbon, like I said, dries it out, but also allows it to be a much better compost in the long run. This Ford tractor right here has actually been in the family now for 3 generations. My grandfather used it. My father uses it still to this day, and now we're using it as well. It's a 1950 something. It's a Model 800. If you know what year this came out, I think it's 1953, 1954, but this tractor is an antique, but it runs like a top. It is used for all kinds of stuff on the farm, from dragging trees out, chopping wood, all kinds of stuff. It was used originally on the farm for crop farming, and this is just a really special kind of thing. in our family that we kind of keep near and dear to our hearts. So the fact this thing still runs is really awesome. My father has kept it up over the years, and so that's why we have it to this day. This is a Lancaster spreader. It actually came from Ohio, and this is actually one of the best ones that we know about. We were really, really lucky to find one locally for sale because the guy actually went to Ohio, picked it up, then brought it back, and so we're really grateful for that. It's actually the person that we use for our manure. He didn't want to have to spread it. He just didn't want to deal with it. He has a big horse farm, so he didn't want to have to deal with actually that side of things. To him, it's more profitable just to stay focused on the horses, and so we were able to pick this spreader up from him, and we get all of our manure free from him because it's just a byproduct of what he does. As I mentioned before, this is a Lancaster spreader, and this is the 125 version. These things can be different sizes, but this is one of the bigger ones that they make. I'm going to go through each of the pieces here and just kind of show you how it works together. All right, so let's talk about the inside first. What we've got here is, this is called your chain apron. And this, you can see the chain on each side. There's one there, and then there's one down here as well. But this moves the manure towards the back. Now, I really like how they did this. This is a composite floor, like you may have a composite deck at home. This is a composite floor. What this does is it prevents this from ever rusting out. These bolts might rust, and you can replace those, but this won't ever rust out. It also is extremely smooth. This surface down here is really, really smooth, so it moves this back and allows the manure to come back all the way to where I call it, this is the action end of the spreader. Now, these are the tires, and they are nice because they're large, they're very smooth, they don't break your grass down, they lay it down so it doesn't disturb as much of it, but they're able to hold a lot of weight, and this is really nice so you can really load this thing down. Now, here is where all the action occurs. You've got a couple of different things happening here. This chain apron here is going to be moving the manure down this way, and you can actually change the speed of that. I'll show you in a second. But these beaters right here are running off of the PTO of the tractor, and you've got several different sets here. These right here start grinding it up. So do these, right? So sometimes there's a wall. This thing can be really tall, and so this wall of manure is going to be coming in here. What this does is it spins in a specific pattern so that, one, it catches all this debris. Things like this will be kind of picked up and it'll wrap around it, and then you come through here and you can, well, do what we did before, just kind of get rid of it. But it also breaks the manure up, especially if they're in big chunks, if there might be some dirt clogs, things like that in there. This breaks it up. Then this thing slings it around. These are like paddles, and so almost like a paddle in the water. It flings it all around and throws it out. And the way that these things hit the manure as it's coming out, it makes it kind of explode into small pieces. I know that's a really great visual, but these paddles actually hit the manure and they bust it into tiny small pieces. And so instead of big clumps out there that are going to be problems for grass and stuff to start growing in, this actually allows it to be much finer. Here's an example. This is what it's beat it down to. And you can see this is just where, it collected on here the other day when we were using it. But this is extremely fine compost and manure together. And you can see that it looks amazing. This is the kind of stuff that grasses absolutely love. It holds on to moisture and it allows them to get a really good root system. Now, I mentioned before that there's a way to change the speed. You can see here that I've got a rope, and it doesn't normally hang down like that, but there's a little rope up here that you kind of have to keep track of because you don't want to get caught around anything. This rope runs down the side here, and it comes to this lever right here. I don't know if you can see that really well or not, but that lever right here, this has clicks, and as you pull on this, this moves up and it locks in. Each one of these down here, this end, that's not moving. Then when it comes to this end, that's the fastest it will go. And then when you come all the way back to the front, this breaks that loose. When I say it breaks it loose, it allows it to go all the way back again. So the lever, you can adjust it. There's actually 4 adjustments here. You have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then if you go past that, it resets it and it goes all the way back to the beginning. Now, this is the PTO. This is what everything drives off. Now, this older tractor, it actually has to be in gear and be moving in order for the PTO shaft to be engaged. Newer tractors, like my big tractor, the PTO can engage separately from the drivetrain, but that's fine. It works just as well. But this PTO shaft right here on the tractor, that engages and it starts spinning with this particular one whenever we start moving forward. So as we start moving forward, that PTO starts spinning, and this thing spins round and round really, really fast. Obviously, the faster you go and the higher the RPMs of the tractor, the faster that PTO is going to be moving. And that transfers all the energy into this manure spreader. All the mechanical parts of this P125 manure spreader, it all goes back into this equipment back here. And that's what allows this beater right here to work. Now you might be wondering why this is sitting so far down to the ground. Another thing about older tractors, like this one at least, is that when the tractor's not running, the hydraulics don't lock. So as you turn the tractor off, that hydraulic's going to lower down over time as the pressure kind of eases off. So as soon as I start the tractor up, this will raise it right back up to where it was to begin with. It's got a little stand here that when you're going to store it, you can put that up, and then there's a PTO holder right there that you can sit the PTO shaft on, which is nice, and that folds down. I know sometimes I use the term game changer a lot because every time I feel like we get a piece of equipment, man, equipment and the right tool makes all the difference in the world. We've got a small manure spreader and it works fantastic, but when we upgraded to this Lancaster, it's like night and day. I can throw out so much more compost in a short period of time with this one than I ever could with that one. I still like that smaller one we have over there. It works off of the same principles. It's just, it's a smaller compact model, so I can't load as much up on it with the tractor, but it is great for getting into those small spaces. Again, the way we do our paddocks, sometimes I can't get close enough to the edge, or we might be in a space where there's a lot of round and around and around. With that lawnmower and that manure spreader, we can get in there, and it's nice because we have two different sizes. If I were going to be in a small space, maybe an acre or less, I absolutely would use that smaller one, but for a whole lot of acreage, this is absolutely the way to go. Now in comparison, here is that same apron chain that we've got on the other one, and you can see it's just much smaller. It's got a galvanized bottom, so that's one difference there that you can see right away. And you can see here, this is not PTO driven. So this actually drives off of the wheels moving, but we do have handles here which are kind of nice, and our son figured out that you can turn the lawnmower one way or the other as you're making your turns, and it makes it easier to grab these while you're still on the lawnmower. So if you kind of turn it at almost a 90-degree angle, you can grab either handle while still sitting on the lawnmower. But it just uses this, it attaches to the back so you can pull it. So here you can actually see the chain that moves, and this actually is how all of the mechanics here work. As you pull it, this wheel starts to move that chain, and that's what gives action to all of these items. You then engage here with this end with the two handles, depending on which thing you want, either this apron or if you want the beaters to be going. Sometimes you might not want both of them. Most of the time you want both, but not all the time. And then you've got a little protection bar here that kind of keeps you from getting close to these things while they're in motion. But it's the same principle, just a miniature version of it. Really? You're gonna take me putting a tiny little band-aid on my finger? This is very manly, everybody. Although I'm bleeding like a stuck pig, so I don't know what to tell you.
Always keep a first aid kit in your tractor.
Always keep a first aid kit in your tractor. I used to say because of kids, but apparently because of adults too. So.
It's going to be really nice that we have both of the spreaders out here today, because normally it's just our son and I, and we take turns kind of going out with the spreader, and he has to load with his front loader. So this will give us an opportunity to go ahead and load both of them rather than him sitting and waiting while we spread everything and come back. He can just go ahead and load both of them up. We can both run out there, and then there's no idle time here. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more done today.
So now I get to leave the comfort of an air-conditioned cab where I was doing all the loading from, and I get to go jump on that Ford, which will be how my grandfather did it back in the 50s and 60s. No air conditioner, just in this hot, humid weather that we have today. It's in the upper 90s. That's a big challenge. That's what farmers used to do.
We got a little bit done the other day. We got this paddock done, but we want to do the entire field. So we're going to come back out here today and spread more manure. But before we do that, we want to actually show you the ground itself. The ground, obviously this has been a traditional crop farm. They've had tobacco, corn, soybeans, peanuts grown from it. And over the last, 200 years or so, there's been a lot of outputs and not a lot of inputs. So that's why we're trying to bring as many organics onto the farm. We've had our animals here for the last year and a half, 2 years, and they've been depositing their manure themselves. But bringing on organics is really going to help us cut down on that time, but still it's going to take a long time for us to build up the soil where it needs to be. Okay, so this is a spot where it's pretty bare. There's not a whole lot of grasses here, and we planted it throughout the whole, field, but this ground is just so incredibly hard that, there's a lot of things that are having a hard time growing in here except for the weeds, of course. Here's another spot. You can just see that there's really nothing loose. Why do all this, right? You're going to spend years and years of building the soil and bringing organics onto the farm, having more animals and the cost of hay and all of the things in order to, build that soil. Well, because as you're building the soil, you're creating more essential nutrients that the plant needs in order to grow. Also, with having some deep soil, you're able to retain water more for that plant to have, and then also cut down on flooding. And this field specifically here in the back, it floods out like crazy, and that's just because there's no soil and it's all just kind of standing there. Funny thing is, when you walk around, you'll definitely know where we get our manure from. We always find shoes and halters in the mix. Here's the newest pile that we have going on here, and you can see there's piles. Each of these piles are dump trailer loads of the manure that has come in. But we can see here we have chips that we've mixed in there, and then we also have hay from last year. This is hay that just kind of broke down. The cows didn't eat all of it, and so we're mixing this in with those piles. You can see here we also have some pine chips from our brooders. We raise turkeys and chickens here on our farm, and so whenever they're done out of their brooders and we're putting them out onto the field, we'll go ahead and dump all of their pine shavings and manure out into this pile and then mix this in, so it's nice carbon in this mix as well. You can see with this one, it's pretty wet still. Obviously it's going to be dry here at the top, but it's a pretty wet manure, and this is definitely something that needs to age before we throw it out onto the field.
Now I think there's a really cool story that sums up why we do what we do and why we're spending all this effort with a manure spreader to throw things out onto our fields. I met a regenerative agriculture farmer who shared with me that when he started, his farm was just horrible. The soil was completely depleted, nothing would grow except weeds, and that it was in really bad shape. However, he continued to haul in things like manure and walnut shells that have been crushed and anything that he could get his hands on. When tree trimmers would trim, he would introduce those organics, you know, the chipped up wood into his farm as well. Everything that he could get his hands on, he would introduce and spread out onto the fields. But after 20 years, he told me that his farm can now withstand a 10-inch rain without flooding. That 10 inches of rain can fall onto his soil and it is absorbed by all of the organic material that is in the soil and it retains it. And then when there are droughts, his fields are always green when everybody else's are brown. That's the difference that regenerative agriculture makes in farming.
Okay, so that's how we're building our soil here on our regenerative farm. If you guys have any questions, definitely leave it in the comments below. And also if you have some recommendations as to what else we can put on our farm to help build that soil, let us know. We have a lot more slinging to do today.
Yep,
so
we've got a lot of loads that we've got to go out there, but the compost is looking great. We can't wait to show you guys what it's going to look like in the future as we do this, but it takes a while, right? This is not an overnight process. Didn't get this way overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight, right? So with that, guys, we hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time
on the Purpose-Driven Homestead. Bye, guys.
Bye.